This is the It's My Time podcast with Asher Chua.
Have a podcast.
I'll go with it. It's recording.
Yeah, there's no problem, man.
No
problem at all.
But I agree with you there. But I like what your shirt says. Not a dad bod. It's a father figure.
Man, you know what? Nobody knows where this shirt came from.
What's that?
Nobody knows where this shirt came from.
Where did it come from?
No, I don't know. It popped up in the mail one day.
Oh,
so, like seriously, I thought my wife may have ordered it, and she said, "No, I didn't order that." And so I was waiting on somebody to hit me and be like, "Hey, did you get the gift I sent?"
Right.
And it's my size and everything, and it had my name on it. It was to TJ, so
right.
I just rolled with it.
That's hilarious. It's like it showed up, had your name on it, fits you. Like, might as well wear it. But
yeah,
it's a cool shirt.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks, man. Like I said, I am a proud father, so that's why I'm gonna roll with it.
That's good. I know we just met through the morning meetup, David Shan's group, and I was curious, how'd you hear about it, or how'd you decide to jump on it?
It's two people that I know that was already in it, but I didn't know they was in it. And one is I don't know if you know Jamesia. She's in real estate, and I actually met Jamesia through another you say course class that we was doing together. Okay. And she highly recommended it. And the other one is Keon, Smooth and Groove. He does the smoothies.
I maybe heard his name. I was out. I just got back in this January, like actually logging in and participating.
You will hear Keon's name pretty often because him and Dave, they play basketball together. And Keon actually works out at my cousin's gym in McDonough. And I was just like, what do you think about the group? And he was like, man, I love it, join. And that's really all the validation I needed right there. And luckily I got in when it was like $59. So I got grandfathered in because now, the price keeps going up and rightfully so, because it helps out a whole lot.
Yeah. I guess would have been some things that you kind of gained from it so far. Like,
man, the shorter list would be what I haven't. For me I think it's a gift and a curse, because you start your day off and you're pumped and you're ready to go. Right. But I think what you have to do is actually take the group a step further. And I know for me, I have Jamesi, and I have a lot of other people that you need that energy to carry you throughout the day. Gotcha. And you need that accountability. So you have that accountability in the morning, and it's great. And you're pumped up and you're ready to go and you get all this energy and knowledge. But when 1 o'clock hits, when 2 o'clock hits,
right.
Now what?
Because you might need that 5-hour energy.
Yeah, you can go right back into not being disciplined. So you have to get people in the group or from the group or not even from the group, just in life, that's gonna help carry that energy throughout. But the whole disc assessment that we took, I think that was pretty accurate of me. So it is. I think Dave he's in his lane, and he does a really good job at conveying why you're not where you want to be. And and I like the way he does it, because it's a way that I do it. It's I'm not gonna tell you you're messing up. I'm gonna have you answer some questions, and you're gonna tell yourself that you're messing up.
Right.
And that's what I love, man, because I can relate to that. And that's what I do to people. I'm not gonna sit up here and bash you.
Right.
I'm gonna ask you what made you think that, and you're gonna tell yourself why you did that. And if you tell yourself why you did that, you're gonna better understand it yourself versus somebody just telling you messed up.
Got you. So what's your background in?
Man, believe it or not, I worked in a mine for 11 years.
Okay. You're the first
And
miner I've ever met.
man, it was rough. It was day shift, night. It was a rotate shift. It was day shift, night shift, weekends, holidays. They could throw you on the schedule whenever they wanted to. And then it was cool when I was a bachelor. It wasn't really cool, but I could do it because I really didn't have responsibilities. And it rotated to a way where you would be off 7 days like straight. So, and people thought that was cool. And I'm like, that really sucks.
Right.
Because you've been on this night shift and then it takes you probably 3 days to get acclimated.
Yeah.
And then you're off during the time everybody else is at work. And then you go back to work on a Friday night.
Right.
It sucks. And so it's like, no, it sounds cool, but it's really not. And then you may be planning something. So it would be, say you plan to go out of town on a Saturday, they could throw you on a schedule on a Thursday. And just be like, oh, well, no, you got to work Saturday. And it got to the point to where, I got married, had a kid, and it was starting to become unfair to them. It was times where it was Christmas and my wife would have to go over to friends' houses because I would have to work on a Christmas night or something like that.
Ooh.
And it got to a point to where I never wanted to miss out on something that my son was doing. And maybe it's a little unfair to my wife, but we're all driven by something.
Right.
And what drives me is my son. Like that's what drives me. And when it was just me and her, I really didn't have the drive to leave like I did with my son. Because now it's like, well, okay, now I have both of y'all and both of y'all need my time. And I told her, I said, man, give me 2 years and I'm going to come up with something different. Right. And I actually did it in 9 months. So nice. That was kind of just my drive to leave, because it got to a point to where I hated going. I hated going to that place to the point to where I would wake up mad. And so if you're in a car driving to a place that you hate, it was actually unfair to both equally. But I think the drive itself, it came from, okay, I was seeing her have to do everything with him by herself. And that's what got me. I never forget, it was one Thanksgiving. I had to go into work, and mindset is so powerful, man. We're out there at work on Thanksgiving night, and it's no knock at all to the people that work out there. It's just simple mindset.
Right.
The people who worked out there just accepted it and was like, hey, we have to work. Right. I would like to be at home with my family, but I got to work.
Right.
And I think that night, my mindset just changed to the point to where it was, nah, dog, I got to do something different, because I just seen my wife. I remember, I never ever forget this day. She had planned to go see her aunt, and her aunt lives like maybe 20 minutes away. Right. And her aunt's son, her cousin, had came in town, and some plans changed. And so her aunt was actually getting ready to leave on Thanksgiving and not the day after Thanksgiving. Right. So she was just kind of here by herself with the kid. And I seen the look on her face to where she was just not defeated, but just like, damn, this can't be life. Right. And I remember I was driving to work and I was like, you know what? Enough is enough. Like and when I say my son changed it, it was because my son added a different dynamic to everything that was going on.
Right.
So now it just wasn't her feeling that way. It was her and my son. So now I have two people out here in the world that's just kind of like, everybody else is with their family.
Right.
And TJ has to work. And so I remember being out there that night on Thanksgiving night. And I was like, man, I just don't see how y'all accept this shit.
Mm-hmm.
I really just don't see. And maybe it's me, there's nothing wrong with it because you're exactly right. You have to work and provide for your family.
Right.
But that can go one of two ways.
Mm-hmm.
You can listen to the people out there.
Yeah.
And accept the fact that they're accepting it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay. Or you can go left and change it yourself.
Right.
And, just read something on my mirror a second ago, man, the best way to predict the future is by creating it. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, yo, I'm changing it right now. And I remember that's when I came home that morning. I told her, give me 2 years.
Yeah.
And this will change.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I did it in 9 months.
Right.
So that happened in November. I left that job in June. So it went 7 months. 9 months probably. Gotcha. So roughly. And I got to the point to where I was getting in my car. I hated going.
Yeah.
Like I hated it. I hated it to the point to where when I came home, I had to sit in my car, in my truck, and decompress for like 10 minutes before I go in.
Yeah.
And I remember it would be some mornings I would just be out there in my truck and she would come outside. And I don't know if she probably thought I was talking to another girl or what, but she was like, why you just sitting in the car? Like, why you need to come in the house? Little do she know, I'm really trying to leave all that stuff.
Yeah. You trying to leave work at work.
Yeah. I'm trying to leave work at work. Like, I'm chilling. Let me decompress because if I come in this house with work, we gonna hate each other.
Right.
So let me leave work at work, right? Mm-hmm. And when it got to that point, man, I knew it was time because it was, I love the people that I was working with, but it was time because it got to the point to where, man, I truly 1000% hated getting in my truck going.
Right.
And then it got to the point to where I just didn't care. Mm-hmm. And when I got that first check, because I started out wholesaling real estate.
Yeah.
And I made $24,000 in 1 week. And when I got this, but you know how we are. We got debt and everything else to pay for. So at 24 went down real quick, just catching back up.
Right.
But the thing about it is, when you're an entrepreneur, I hate describing it like this, but it's the best way I can describe it coming from where I come from. Mm-hmm. Being an entrepreneur is like being a drug dealer, especially in real estate, because in real estate, money comes to you in chunks.
Right.
But it also leaves in chunks too. And you have those moments to where you can find house after house after house after house for probably a month straight. Mm-hmm. And then you have those moments where you'll go 3 months and you won't have nothing. That's drought season. Right. So it was crazy because it was like, dang, I just made $24,000 in 1 week. If I double dog dare y'all to say something to me at this job, I'm out.
Right.
I want you to say something. Like, I triple dog dare you to say something to me, I'm out. And but it's crazy because that's where the gift and the curse comes in at, because now you know you can make that money. Mm-hmm. Now you start taking chances that you probably shouldn't take.
Right.
But you know you can get it back because you've already done it. Mm-hmm. Now, it gets even more complicated when you do that 2 or 3 times over. Like, dang, I dug myself in a hole, but I got myself out. I dug myself in a hole, but I got myself out. And that's the difference between, I think, 9 to 5 and entrepreneurship is that if you have a $10,000 credit card debt and you work at 9 to 5, you in panic mode.
Right.
Because it's like you can't 9 to 5 your way out of that because interest is going to eat you up.
Yeah.
But when you're an entrepreneur, it's like I can make this 10 and I can make this 10,000 in a month or two.
Right.
Because there's no cap to what you can make. Now, I'm not knocking 9 to 5s, but I think the number one thing is you have to identify what your freedom is.
Yeah.
For me, it was being around for my family, because I seen them on Thanksgiving and Christmas frustrated.
Right.
And to me, going to that job, I felt locked up. So I had to identify my freedom, man. And it was that.
Yeah.
And so, but now you have to build on top of that.
Right.
So now I have real estate, and real estate is going great. But now you have to transition that to stocks. Why? Because you can have a time like this where people ain't paying rent.
Right.
Or you don't know where real estate is going. But one thing's for sure, stocks is going to always be there. So you have to diversify yourself. And I tell my son is 3, and I tell my son this, even now at 3, if you always know how to make money, you'll never be broke. So some people will say, man, you're doing too much. You need to learn everything you can about real estate before you go into stocks or before you go into Forex. Take people's opinion at their opinion.
Right.
Because the number one thing I think people mess up at is you don't need somebody to see your vision for you to see it. They're giving you their opinion based off what they can do. So if they can't do X, Y, Z, A, B, and C at the same time, that's on them. If you think you can do it, do it. Always dream big, man. And because I hear people all the time, well, if you have a plan B, you taking away from plan A. Not really. Because Coca-Cola has how many products? Pepsi has how many products? Sony has how many products? Amazon has how many Amazon products? Right. When Amazon made the Fire Stick, did that take away from them making the Dot? Did that take away from them making everything else that Amazon makes? When Coca-Cola made Coke, did that take away from them doing everything else that's a Coca-Cola product? Right. No. And like I said, you have to take an opinion as an opinion. And I always relate everything to sports. And you have to be the head coach of your life. Now, I have people who I deem very close to me in my circle, but they're all assistants. No disrespect. Right. But I'm an assistant in your life. Right. I'm not the head coach of your life. Right. So don't take that as offense. It's like, no, but in my life, you're just a defensive coordinator. You're just an offensive coordinator. That's all you are. Right. I'm going to make the final decision. So, and you have to understand that, because I remember going back to that first real estate deal. Well, it was actually 2 real estate deals that got me that. I came up with that conclusion because I went to 2 people who I deemed knew more than me at that point in time, like 2.5 years ago now. And I remember, if I would have listened to them, I would have left $10,000 on the table. Because they all told me, you would never get that much for that house. Your price is too high. And in my heart of hearts, I just felt like, nah, man, this price is right. I don't know as much as y'all know about real estate, but I feel that this price is right. And I'm putting it out there for that. Right. long story short, even the price that I was gonna put it out there at was still too low. I would have made $6,000 less actually. So number one rule in negotiating is whoever names their price first loses.
Mm.
And the person who bought that house, thank God, right, man, thank God. He said, man, I give you 44 for it. I give you $44,000 for this house. Crazy thing about it is,
yeah,
I was gonna tell him I wanted $38,000 for the house. But like, there was a learning lesson for me because I was actually reading a book at the time called Never Split the Difference. And in that chapter, it said who names the number first loses, right? And so I was doing everything to be like, I don't want to say what I want, but if he asks, I'm gonna just say it. Right. Because I was new, it was my first deal. I just wanted the deal done. Mm. And but if I would have listened to them and not myself, right, I probably would have resented them to this day. Mm-hmm. And so like I said, man, you have to be the head coach of your life. And now, if I said 38, mm-hmm. and he took the 38, and a year later I realized I could have got 44, I'm not mad at that because I said it. Right. But if I would have said 34, mm-hmm. and he came back and I knew I could have got 4, and I listened to them, oh, I'm pissed. I'm pissed. Like, don't even say nothing to me ever again. Right. Like, nah. And so just take control of your life, man, and do things your way. Take opinions as opinions. Right. I think that's a good point you made there. Or go ahead. Yeah, and that's really it, man, because even now, I know stocks, but I don't know Forex. Mm-hmm. But I'm learning Forex, right? Yeah. And what made me learn Forex was working on learning Forex is I have these 2 cousins. I have this one cousin. I'll be honest. I don't know if he ever had a 9-to-5 to ever save his life. I don't know. I've never known him to have a 9-to-5. He's always been an entrepreneur. And he's a successful entrepreneur. He owns a gym in McDonough, right? Mm-hmm. And he's all about the empowerment. And all my family members are. And so he created this group text one day, probably about a month ago. And him and his sister and his daughter, actually, we're all on the group text. Mm-hmm. And so his sister is like, she's making some money. I'm not going to say what's in her lunchbox, but she's making some money doing Forex. And I'm like, damn, if I can make that 3 days a week, my mortgage is paid for, right? Right. And so my cousin, he hits me. He was like, yo, cuz, like, you got to learn this, right? Mm-hmm. And so it goes back to the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Right. Have you read the book? I read it. So, in the book, Robert Kiyosaki says he was at the dinner table and one father accepted the conversation of money, mm-hmm. and the other father, the poor father, didn't accept the conversation of money, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how, when they sent me that text, that was the first thing that popped up in my mind. It's like, well, dang, we have all these kids that's around us, right? And you're going to be a product of your environment. So when we get together, even if it's just, we take 3 or 4 hours out of that time, but besides us just drinking and eating catfish, mm-hmm. and having a good time, what if we really had a in-depth conversation of money moves? Because the subconscious mind is always working, especially inside of a child. Yeah. So if they're around us and they hear us talking about money, they're going to be a sponge and just pick it up subconsciously. Like, they're not even going to know they're picking it up, right? Right. So how about we make this money conversation, learning new things, hey, we can get a grant if we do this, or hey, we can do this with Forex now, or hey, we can do this stock right here. Right. What if we made that the normal conversation? How does that impact them 10, 20 years from now, just by us being around, having and normalizing the conversation of money? Mm-hmm. I think that's huge, man. I think that can really take them to another level. Because I'm being honest with myself, my son probably ain't going to college.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm being honest to the point when we have to get away from this whole dynamic of go to school, get a good job.
Right.
I think 2020 was a prime example. Man, I don't think that's the way to go. Because even though 2020 was a bad year for some people, it was a good year for me.
Okay.
And I know people lost people, and man, you have my sincere condolences.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, here's the facts about 2020. There were more entrepreneurs and more millionaires created last year than probably any other year.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had no choice. You gotta let go from your job. You got the stock market, people knew how to play, just the GameStop situation. Mm-hmm. 2020, man, I think proved a lot to a lot of people.
Right.
But now you have to go even more in depth than that, because why did that become the way that it became? Like, for me, I'm gonna always ask the question, what made that happen? Not what happened,
right?
What made what happened happen?
Mm.
And if you go back to our lineage and our ancestors, going to school was a forbidden thing.
Right.
So if you don't know anything, and if you have access to nothing, then going to school is your best bet.
Right.
Right. If it's hard for you to get a job, if they say, hey, you need a diploma to get a job.
Right.
And now we're all getting diplomas. Well, we're going to change the narrative. Now you need a bachelor's degree to get a job.
Right.
We all get bachelor degrees. Well, now they change the narrative again. Well, now you need a master's degree to get a job.
Right.
Right. Well, dang. When does it become the point to where it's like, man, screw that? Because I think for everybody before us, it was hard to get their hands on information.
Right.
And the only way to get their hands on information was to go to school.
Right.
Because it was just so forbidden for them to do it, right?
Right.
But now, 2021, I feel like, and I'll take the crucifixion if it comes for me, but I feel like the only reason you should go to school is for a handful of reasons. And if you want to be an engineer in the medical field, in the educational field, if you want to own a bank, is only a handful of reasons why you should go to school. And it's only if you want to be in certain fields. If you want to be political, if you want to be a lawyer or something, then yeah, you have to go to school, right?
Right.
But even then, if my son came to me in the 11th grade and he says, Dad, I want to be a lawyer, I have absolutely no problem with that. But this is what we're going to do.
Right.
I'm going to find the best lawyer in Georgia or something close to it. And I'm going to say, hey, what needs to be done for my son to spend a summer with you, to do a day in the life, so he'll know when he goes to school what a lawyer needs to do. Networking can do way more for you than any degree can.
Yeah.
So if he does something to where he has to go to school for it, in life, whatever it is he wants to do, I feel like it's my job and his mom's job to put him in the position to be around the people that's doing it at a high level.
Right.
Because if not, you're going to go to school and waste a lot of money.
Yeah. I was talking with a friend the other day, and it was the first time we probably talked in over 10 years. And we went to the same college to start. And we were saying that one of the big things we got out of the college was networking, because it's like, if we wouldn't have gone, we would have never met each other. He was in architecture and I did civil engineering, and being kind of around the same people, being introduced to a friend of ours that I reached out to earlier this week. and he introduced us, the same friend that I went to high school with, he introduced us to Rich Dad Poor Dad, and we ignored it for about 5 years until after we graduated college, and then read it, and it was like, man, that would have been some helpful information to be like, okay, like these are the things that you don't know. And to be, I think it speaks to, like you were saying earlier, the mindset you have to be able to receive something that you've never had before, or be put in a position where you're so uncomfortable where it's like, I can't continue to live like this, because otherwise, like, to your point for what you were saying earlier, and as you were saying it, I was thinking back to the Richest Man in Babylon book that we went through, and going through it for a second time recently, through the group. One of the points that I got from it was that no matter where you are, if you're in a 9 to 5 or if you're an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to manage your money. Like, if you don't have money management, it doesn't matter what job you do. Like you were saying, you could get 20K, 24K in 1 week, but if you spend it all, it's like you never made anything.
It's like you never made it.
Right. So I was like, not to discourage anybody, but it's definitely one of those things. It's I guess the main tip, or the first tip that kind of comes out of the book, just to give you hope, is that out of everything you make, 1/10 of what you make is yours to keep. I know a lot of people are big on tithing. Yes, go ahead, tithe, donate that, but also consider that a part of what you make is yours to keep. And then you have to look into investing that. And a lot of people do the savings route, which, yes, it's good to save, but the same thing as like the college system, the college education is decaying, or the quality isn't as good. The banking system isn't as good. Like, if you're just going to let your money sit in a banking savings account, you're basically playing yourself. And like, unless you get the education, unless you get around people that are well versed in that area, it's like, don't go take somebody's advice on money that's not making money. Like, if somebody's saying, oh, you should do this, or like, I've got this idea, like, anytime that I've had somebody approach me with their idea, I've tried not to be dismissive of it, but at the same time, I'm like, that's a good idea. You should do that. I'll encourage you to do it, but I'm not getting involved, because one, I don't know anything about that. If you think it's gonna work, great. The world is yours. Like, the world's your oyster. Like, go forth and conquer. But if you're not going to connect with somebody that knows what they're doing and you want to study under them, then don't come to me for like confirmation or for support that I can't provide. And back to what you were saying again with the coaching, it's like starting off this year and really focusing on being the head coach of myself and saying, these are the things that I have to do for me. Like, I've got to answer not only in building out the podcast. It's like, okay, before I decide where the podcast needs to go, I need to decide where it is that I'm trying to go and kind of figure that out. So I commend you on that. And I was curious how, I think you said you started the real estate deal over 2 years ago.
Yeah, like 2.5 now, man.
Okay.
Crazy thing is, I was actually at that job, and dude named a guy named Adrian Brown. He's actually the same age as me. He was a shift foreman, supervisor.
Yeah.
And it got to the point. It was probably, crazy thing is, like you were saying, things are presented in your life. You just kind of never do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I still, to this day, maybe you can say I hold grudges. I don't know. But to this day, I relate everything to sports, man.
Yeah.
I remember, I still have these messages. I reached out to 13 people who are here in this area, who I deem is doing pretty well in real estate, right?
Right.
Man, I didn't get a no thank you. I didn't get a kiss my ass. I didn't get a, hey, I don't have time, but you can ask me a quick question. I got nothing, man. And I reached out to them, hey, my name's TJ. I know you're busy, but I was just wondering if I could have a second of your time because I'm starting off in real estate. We're just wondering if I could take you to coffee or lunch or something so you can just kind of help me watch for some pitfalls here in the area. Man, I got nothing. And I was so pissed off about that. And I said, man, I'm gonna show y'all. Like, I'm gonna do this without y'all, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember I was in the lab, and it was the shift foreman switched out at 5 o'clock, and we got off at 6 o'clock. And so I was in the lab waiting for 6 o'clock to hit. This guy by the name Adrian Brown was saying, we're still cool to this day. And like I said, we're the same age, but he talks like he's a little bit older. He was like, what's going on with you, fella? And I was like, man, I got to get the hell up out of here, man. I was like, I don't know what I got to do, but man, I got to get the hell up out of here. And he was like, with the real estate stuff, because I've been going at it for some months to no avail. And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, man, I got to make this work. Like, I have to make this work. And he was like, man, I'm going to introduce you to somebody. And he was like, she's the lady. She's helping me with my house. She's helping me sell my house, but she's well diverse in everything in real estate. And I think she probably can help you out, man. Now, mind you, I just went through 13 people and got nothing.
Right.
So my mindset is already like, man, here we go again. And I was like, I tell you what, man, give me her number. If she can help me, great. Give me her number. I'll hit her up.
Yeah.
He was like, I got you. And so I got off at 6, probably about 10 o'clock. He sent me her information. I didn't call her. I called her that next night. I was at work. It was probably about 6 o'clock. I just clocked in. I gave her a call. I got her voicemail. And I was like, hey, Tanya, how you doing? This is TJ. Adrian Brown gave me your number. Boom, 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 boom. She didn't call me back until the next morning. So here we are 2 days after. And I'm like, I don't even know how this is going to go. So she called me at like 9 o'clock. And she was like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, who is this? And she was like, hey, it's Tanya Smitherman. How are you? And I was like, I'm fine, boom. And we talked. And I just told her my vision. And she was like, well, hey, tell you what. She was like, well, I have an opening Wednesday. We can meet. Yeah. And I said, okay, well, let's meet. And I was like, what's good for you? She was like, Panera Bread in Alabaster. It's probably like 10 minutes away. And man, really, that's all I needed. I just needed to sit down with her, and I needed her to say, you can do this. Because I had failed. And I guess because I looked her up, I Googled her and all that stuff, and she's doing really well in real estate. I'm like, this lady says I can do it, and she believes in me that I can do it, and she's willing to help me, then I can do it. Right. And she invited me to a meetup group. I didn't go to the meetup group until probably about 5 months after she invited me. Reason being, because I had to work. Though every time it was a meetup group, I had to work a night shift.
Gotcha. Right.
And so I finally got a chance to go. And I swear to you, man, I went to that meetup group, and it was that following week when I got those 2 deals, my first 2 deals. Nice. And it's just being in those circles, having that energy. Yeah. Man, it can project you to so many places. And I really don't think people understand the power of having people in your circle that has that same energy or better energy. Right. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I don't get off on that. I don't care to be the smartest person in the room, because then I feel like I'm talking to a bunch of dummies. And there's no disrespect, but that's how I feel. Like, I would much rather feel like, damn, I'm learning something than feel like y'all don't get it. You see what I'm saying? Like, if I'm talking to you and I just feel like, man, you don't get it, then that's going to frustrate me. Right. Like, I don't want that. Like, I would much rather be in there and be like, okay, I see why you did that. That's cool. And so, but having that validation from her, man, and I tell her all the time, even to this day, I still give her flowers because I'm like, man, you have no idea. I went through 13 people.
Yeah.
And I didn't even get a reply back.
Over what period of time was that? Like reaching out to those 13 people?
Probably within 2 weeks, man, because I was so anxious to get started in the business, and I was just DMing them. And you know, on the DM, you can see if they seen it or not.
Right.
and I'm like, dang, I would much rather for you to send back an emoji than not.
Yeah.
I feel like, man, not replying is way more disrespectful than anything you can say.
Right.
You seen it and you don't reply. That's way more disrespectful than anything.
Right.
No, and I just put LOL, even though if you're not laughing out loud, just put LOL or something. Like that, to me, dog, that's the biggest form of disrespect.
Right.
And maybe I shouldn't take it that personal, but I'm like, I'd much rather you spit in my face, man, and just like look at it and just deem me not that important to reply to.
Right.
So, but yeah, and I still know them people. I still got a list. Gotcha. I do, man. Maybe I shouldn't, but I got a list.
Have you tried to reach back out to them since you connected with Tanya?
Here's the crazy thing. Like, if I'm wholesaling properties, I have the properties up there, and it's been a few of them who have hit me for the property.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh yeah, man, I love that property. Like, where's that property located at? Don't worry about it. I don't reply to them. So that's just how I feel, man. Maybe I shouldn't be that way. And it's funny because one of the biggest lessons I learned from Jay Prince's book, The Art and Science of Respect, there's a chapter in there where he says, even if I don't like you, I can do business with you because I'm never gonna let my emotions get in the way of me making money. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll get there, but that's actually the biggest lesson I took from that book.
Right.
And I still be like, man, F y'all. And I'm 2.5 years removed from that, but
yeah,
that's just my just my personality, man.
You're on your way. And I think that speaks volume for you to be able to say, I'm not there yet. Maybe I'll get there, but not right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, it still has that sore spot, but you're thinking like, I'm not going to dwell on it. It's still there, but I'm going to still work my process. And I guess not to keep quoting books from the morning meetup, but like going through the Slight Edge, I was thinking as soon as you said your shift foreman, whenever he introduced you to her, and then you guys finally connected, you went to the group, and then you got your deals. It's not, I guess a lot of times people will say, oh, it's kind of like the lottery. You just had that, like the quantum leap. All of a sudden you had that like 24K, like probably the biggest check you get in a week, just like that. But then it's like, no, you got to remember everything that you put into that. You got to remember how your kids were looking at you, how your wife was looking, just being her and your son when you have to work, all those times. And then what drove you to talk with your cousin, or no, your cousin's in Forex, but what drove you to get into the real estate, reaching out to the people, doing your own research, and even interacting with Mr. Antonio before he introduced you to her, because he already knew that you were dealing with the real estate. So it's like all those steps over that period of time, whether it was 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, like all that led into that. So it wasn't just like you didn't get lucky. It's like somebody saw what you were doing and you kept pursuing. Like you failed, you got back up. You failed, you got back up. One person ghosted you, 13 people ghosted you, and you said, okay, I'm still going to try it. And that's very important.
Yeah, and I think that comes from you're exactly right. And to me, the grand scheme of it all is just you're attracting it. The law of attraction. you know, you can't just say a prayer and sit on the couch and hope that what you pray for falls in your lap, right?
Right.
You have to pray, and man, you hit something real deep. It's like you have to remember how they was looking at you. And you know, I've never done that. I've done a whole lot of stuff, man, but I never went back to that moment on looking at the look on their face. I never done that, man.
Yeah.
Because and I'm going to, I appreciate that, because one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur is the discipline to keep doing it over and over again.
Right.
Because it's so easy to get complacent.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get a check and be like, man, you know, I ain't doing nothing today. I ain't got to do nothing today.
Right.
Right. And man, it's so like, when people ask me what's the hardest part, I always say discipline. And I tell people all the time, I hate working from home. I hate it because there's so many distractions.
Yeah.
And but you're exactly right, man. I appreciate that. That's something that I like playing with my own psyche. And that's something that you have to remember those times, man. You have to remember that hatred that I had going out there because, man, there was times I didn't sleep. Literally, I was doing 12-hour shifts. I would come home. I would get on the phones from about 8 a.m. Well, no, I would go to the gym from 6:30 to 8:30. Then from about 8:30 to like 2 o'clock, I would get on the phones, like just trying to call people. And then if I had to go look at a property, I would get in my car and go look at the property. It was sometimes, golly, I'd never forget the times when I wouldn't go to sleep until like 3 o'clock. Yeah. And then the people, they have normal work hours. They would be like, well, I can meet you at the property at 5 o'clock. So then I get maybe 2 hours of sleep because I got to look at this property because I need this property to get up out of this job. Right. And so I remember I would be wearing my work stuff, and I had this little cheap polo shirt I had made that had Haney Enterprise on it. And I would throw the polo shirt on real quick and hop out with my clipboard, and I'm looking at my watch the whole time, right? Yeah. And so if you know anything about real estate and negotiating a deal, you're probably going to be there for 40 minutes. If you're going to get this deal, it's probably going to be a 40-minute to an hour process. You're not just going to walk in there in 15 minutes, they're going to sign a contract with you. Right. Not happening. And so I remember I was getting this contract signed, man. I'm looking at my watch. Like, I'm just keep looking at my watch. And I'm not trying to rush them. Right. Because I need this deal. Right. But I also got to be to work in like 10 minutes. Right. It's going to look bad if you're showing up late to your job. And it's like, I know you want to get up out of here, but you might get out of here earlier than you thought. That point system is still going. Yeah. No matter if you're trying to leave or not, you still getting that point system. And so, man, I remember those times, man. It was hell. Yeah. Man, it was hell, man. But it was those disciplines of wanting to get up out of there to where now, okay, I'm gone. So I don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. I don't have to stay up 18 hours, or work 18 hours. But honestly, if there's a such thing as a secret sauce, that's actually it, is tapping into how bad do you really want to accomplish this? Right. And back then, it was my livelihood. That's how bad I wanted to accomplish that, because it was my livelihood. And now I have to tap into everything else because life isn't bad. It's not where I want it to be, but it's so easy to get complacent and be like, man, we straight. Yeah. Like, bills are paid. Cool. Yeah, we good. I ain't doing nothing today. But now I'm cheating them, right? Because it's like, well, you ain't working. Why we gotta go to work? Now, lo and behold, I ain't working. But Yeah, man. I appreciate you giving me that little nugget, because that's something else I can put in my toolbox.
Yeah.
On why you got to keep going, man. Because it's so easy. Golly, man, it's so easy to get complacent.
Yeah.
And people think it's that easy too. People think, oh man, you do whatever you want to do. That can be further from the truth.
Right.
That's the furthest thing from the truth, that I can do what I want to do.
I guess
the truth of the matter is, a person who works a 9 to 5, they have way more time than I do.
Yeah.
Because you know your schedule.
Right.
I don't know my schedule, right? So just like I have this call with you. So yesterday at 9 o'clock, I knew what I was gonna do. Yesterday at 9 p.m., everything that I thought I was gonna do today got switched all the way around. So now I have to do this and this and this when I thought I was gonna do this and this and this.
Right. So
my day changes in the middle of the day sometimes. Because I could call somebody on the phone and be like, hey, can I look at your property tomorrow? And be like, no, you can't look at it tomorrow, but you can look at it today. All that just got switched. Yeah. So now it's like, well, dang, when do I look at the news for trading? When do I look at the Forex courses? Yeah. When do I spend time with my wife and son? When do I, things need done around the house? So a person who works a 9 to 5 has way more time than I have.
Right.
But I think that's a choice that you have to make. And I think it was the morning meetup group when somebody said, time is not money. And that's exactly right. Time is not money. Just the same as knowledge is not power. Like, you can't get rich working a 9 to 5. Right. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you can't.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to get rich working a 9 to 5. You was exactly right when you said having a savings account is almost like a scam. Almost.
Yeah.
You need a cash reserve.
Right.
But it's not the savings that it was in 1980.
Right.
So I think for people, man, if you understand that you're selling your time, I have absolutely no problem with it. But you have to also understand that, hey, the people working the job is not going to get rich. The people who pay the people to work the job are the ones getting rich.
Right.
So if you have that understanding and you're cool with that understanding, and you understand that I just put a price on my time, because time is not money. Right. The only time becomes money is when I say, hey, I have 8 hours today, but you're going to have to give me $20 for each one of those hours. That's the only time becomes money.
Right.
Hey, I have 10 hours a day for you, but at the end of the month, I'm going to need $7,000.
Yeah.
You just sold your time. You deemed your time to be of that value.
Right.
The thing about it is, you're not going to get rich that way. Right. Now, the difference in that is, if that's your freedom, if your freedom doesn't involve you being rich, cool.
Right.
My freedom does. If your freedom is, man, I just want to have a structured work life, and I just want Saturday and Sunday off. That's it. And I will have freedom in my life.
Yeah.
Man, that's great. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would never ever say there's anything working a job. I would just say, understand, have a clear vision of what you want your freedom to be. Because your freedom doesn't have to be rich. Money isn't everything.
Yeah.
Money is not everything, man. But money is a tool that can help get you everything that you ever wanted. So if you're cool with that, Man, great. But for me exchanging my time for money made no sense to me. So I had to create something different. But if you can clock in and clock out and have the life that you want, that's great. But also understand that you're not going to be rich that way.
Yeah.
And this is what I don't like. I compare it to this. I compare it to the girl who cuts her hair and then go gets weave. Makes absolutely no sense to me. Why did you cut your hair if you're going to go get weave? Right? Now, I compare this. You're working a job.
Yeah.
You don't care about being rich, but you play the lottery. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Because you don't care about getting rich, but you're giving your money away trying to get rich.
on luck versus on an educated strategic move.
Right. When, man, we have access to so much information now.
Yeah.
To where I know this one guy, he's actually giving away stocks for under $10. People think you need a lot of money to get involved in stocks. Man, let's take the GameStop fiasco, for instance. Yeah. Stocks is this. It's not the ability to foresee the future. Is having information before everybody else has the information. So is this company or this, I guess, thread on Reddit, Wall Street Bets, is power in numbers, because they came together and said, hey, we're tired of these hedge funds running up or running down these stocks and making all this money.
Right.
What if we all get together and we buy GameStop and we drive the price up? The billionaires are going to lose money and we can get rich.
Yeah.
Why African Americans can't do that?
That's a good question, but I guess to your point, I've heard this question from multiple people, and I always try to get away from that connotation, because one thing that I dislike is grouping, because I find that too many times people group people, because I mean, it's easy to see people, it's like, okay, in general, they say, okay, African Americans have this tendency, whites have this tendencies, this group, that group, and the other. And I feel like too many times people keep repeating that same narrative. It just keeps reinforcing something that's not true. It's like, although that might be what you see, it's like, unless you're exposed to people like yourself, other African Americans that are doing it, that are aware of that, then you won't be asking, why are they doing this? But how can I learn? Like, what is it that they're not doing? And what is it that I need to be doing? Because then it's like, whenever I see people make the broad blanket statements, it's always putting the ownership on somebody else. It's like, the best way that you can change the world is to change yourself, because you're not going to go end world hunger. You're not going to go end poverty. You're not going to go clean up the ecosystem. I mean, you might, but if you don't have yourself put together, you're going to die trying. And some people, they feel like, oh, that's a sense of martyrdom. It's like, in some cases, you could be a martyr. You could be like a philanthropist, but if you're an idiot in doing it, you're an idiot. Like, yes, somebody might pat you on the back and say, good job. But if you didn't bother to do the basics, then the onus falls on you. And I say that not to insult anybody. And as I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself. And to take it back to what you were saying about the point with your son and your wife, that resonated with me, because when you were saying it, I was like, oh, I remember that specific date when I saw the look in my mom's eyes, December 27 or 2016, Christmas, like the end of like Christmas Eve, just seeing like the look on her face, the defeat they're like, when is this going to change? And like just seeing that and having joined Breathe University before I got into the morning meetup, getting around people and being like, okay, there are people out here doing this that look like me, that don't look like me, but they have a certain mindset. And I think it all starts in the mindset where you could be working, like for me, I had a similar thing on the job where I did non-destructive testing. We went to paper mills and power plants, and I worked a couple of night shifts as well. And there was one day I was in my last semester doing a co-op, and I remember it to this day. It's the moment when I decided to look into the motivation space, look into the personal development space, look at the Rich Dad Poor Dad book that was suggested to me because it came up again through a video. And I was sitting there with a grinder in my hand, cleaning boiler tubes, knocking off the rust or all the refrag and dirt that gets on these tubes because you got to inspect them. So I'm in this building that's like 120, 140 feet tall. I've got to clean like a couple hundreds of these, and then you've got to take readings on them. And the whole time that I'm sitting there cleaning this, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, I don't think less of myself, but I don't try to be cocky, but I don't, I know this isn't where I'm supposed to be. Like, I don't mind doing hard work, but there's, there's that time, like you're saying, when you realize that you're wasting your time. Like all my other classmates that were going to Georgia Tech at the time, while they're working, they're sitting in an air conditioned room, feet propped up on the desk, not working half the time. They might be working 8 hours. Out here working 10, 12 hours, getting dirty. Every time you go through one of these things, you got to throw your clothes away. And it's like, I'm doing this maybe for like $11 and benefits, maybe. They're getting $15, $20, and they just brag about it in my face. And I have to sit there and be humble about it. And I'm like, I don't have to hate what they have, and I don't have to question why. Like, I do have to question why I'm not able to do it. And then also, I've got to say, what am I going to do about it? And that's where um, working with one of the guys that I went to school with, he introduced me to motivation. And then from there, changing my mindset, starting to read books. Like the first book that I read, I thought I had it there, but Who Moved My Cheese? I thought it was a funny title. And I was like, I really don't feel like reading. You got to read all these college books and all of that. And I read it, and it was basically talking about dealing with change in your life and how you can't be so resistant to change when it comes, but you've got to be willing to see it, get up and go. Even if you don't know which direction you're going, you got to get moving. And then when you see somebody where you want to be, approach that person, even if they don't look like you, if they don't sound like you, if you're intimidated, it's like approach them with a sense of like, you want to become attractive. Like you see somebody attractive, you want to become attractive so that they can be attracted to you. Otherwise, it's like you don't want to just carry that stench that you carry on yourself. And every time I hear that statement, when people say, why does this group do this? I always say, that's so surface. There's a lot of other things going on. And until you deal with somebody one on one, you're only going to see them as a group. And that that completely dismisses what a human is, because it's like out of all the other creatures in the world, like a human, a man, a woman is it's something very, very different. Like it doesn't matter if you're in a third world country, if you're in a first world country, you have entrepreneurs, you have 9 to 5 workers, you have rich dads, you have poor dads, you have people that are in helpless situations. They can't do anything about it. But then at the same time, in places where it seems like there's nothing, for example, in Dubai, they literally created a city in the desert, like multiple cities in the desert. So it's like based on what you see and what you're exposed to. I think that plays a huge role. And something like the morning meetup group, the prayer line that I got on, like if I gained anything from these, it's like being around people that don't just ask the question for like the choir to sing and just be like, oh yeah, we're getting work so hard. But it's like, yes, that's happening to you. And then what? What are you gonna do? How are you gonna respond?
I respect that, man. I respect that 1,000%. Because now you kind of not retracting it, but you opened it. You opened my eyes to another part of. I see exactly where you're at. It's kind of like if you look at African Americans on VH1, all African Americans don't act like that.
Right.
You know, throwing drinks and doing. So I get that, man. I respect that 1,000%, man. I really do, because you're exactly right. Is what, a billion African Americans on planet Earth.
Right. And even when we say the word African American, I guess like we just met through the group in a like 1 minute 30-second exchange, but like you and I, like we both live in Georgia. Like I'm up in North Georgia, but me, I'm how would I say it? Like I was born in Cameroon, West Africa, West Central Africa, moved here when I was 7, been in the States, pretty much grown up American, but like the African American or the Black American culture is different than the kind of culture that I grew up in. And I guess since going to college and getting out of college, I've made it a point to learn about it because I wasn't exposed to it as well, or I didn't get the best exposure to it growing up. I got the negative parts. Like, of course, you grow up around certain people that have their prejudices. Like, of course, you have when other Black people say, "Oh," especially when you're talking about your own, I'm kind of like, unless you've done something specifically, that statement, it hits home for me. So it's not, whenever I just spoke up, I was like, I've got to say something on it, because it's like, this is how I feel, because I went into college with certain prejudices based on how I was treated in high school, how I was treated in middle school. And in some regards, it's like where I come from, at least the only time I've been back was back in 2015, and it's been a while. So before then, it'd been 18 years I'd been in the US, and I hadn't been back to where I was born. So going in, I was basically a stranger. I was a foreign, a tourist. But going into the college environment, like certain people think because African Americans born in America speak a certain way, that means they're not educated, which is not true. Because it's like back to the education piece. Education isn't just going to school.
Right.
Yes, you learn certain things. You can learn the Queen's English, you can do this and that. But if you don't know how to move about and have control of your life, you don't really know anything. You just know information. You parrot what you hear on the news, you parrot what you read in a book, but you never applied it. So if you never had applied anything, then you're just a conduit for somebody else's ideas and things. But if you never take the time to sit down and go through stuff, then it's almost like, what are you like, not to disrespect what people are, but it's like you lose that sort of reverence that you carry about yourself. And back to the thing, if you're the smartest person in the room, then it's like you're just stroking your own ego. You just show up where you can always lord your knowledge over people and just be like, oh, I know this, I did this, it's like, great. Like, go start a whole town. If you really know all that, go build a country, go do the things. Like, I'm not saying that to insult, but it's like, if you claim to know all these things, but you do none of them, you know none of them. Like, you know of them, but you don't know them. Like, I think my dad had this sermon back in the day, because I'm a preacher's kid, and he had a thing saying that, like, a lot of people say they know Michael Jordan, but it's like, unless you've met Michael Jordan, unless you have a relationship with him, you don't really know him. You just know of him. Yeah.
It reminds me of a saying: imperfect action is way more effective than perfect inaction. It's if you have to get somewhere, but you don't know how to drive a car, but you just hop in the car and go, that's way more effective than you knowing how to drive the car.
Yeah.
And you just sit down and say, I'm not going to drive, because you're overthinking it, right? You know too much, actually. Yeah. Oh, well, I correct. Or, hey, the brakes, no, get in and go. So it is, I totally understand what you're saying, man. And that's exactly right. Sometimes for me, I got to where I'm at off of imperfect action. Even to this day, I don't know everything about real estate, because it's always something that you can learn.
Right.
Like for me, I know of a subject to deal, but I don't really know how to do one. But for me, like what I made my first 2 deals, to me, that was life-changing money. But I also know people, it was life-changing for me. It'd be life-changing for them too, but in a bad way, because to them, that's a bad month. For me, it was almost like I hit the lottery. For them, it's like, man, I'm in panic mode. Like, I'm about to lose everything. And that's why I say, man, you need to know your freedom. And you have to be around people who your best is their worst. Because eventually your best will become your worst if you keep growing.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, man, it's so important to just be around people who's doing more than you and being and moving in a way that you would like to move.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. I know I hear a lot of people say, man, I need a mentor. You have to really define that. Because a mentor and a coach is 2 different things. And I think sometimes you get confused, you really need a coach, and you saying you need a mentor, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You really saying you need a coach, and you really need a mentor.
Right.
A mentor is somebody who's going to help you internally. Oh, you can do it. Let's do it. It's going to be inspiring.
Yeah.
A coach is going to be like, hey, we're going to wake up at 5 a.m. and do these push-ups, or, hey, what you're going to do is you need to sit down and go into the CRM and load all this into your CRM and then read this book. That's a coach.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to have at least one, if not both, in your life.
Yeah.
Whether you're working 9 to 5 or whether you trying to do entrepreneurship, I think you need both.
Yeah.
Man, I couldn't tell you how much money I had spent on courses and going to conferences, but the money that I've made, the money that I spent going, I made 3 times over because of the networking that took place. And man, you go to these conferences thinking you're gonna learn everything. You really get your money's worth if you walk away with one thing.
Yeah.
You're not gonna walk away with everything. You're just not. Right. But if you do walk away with one thing that can change the way you do business, then that conference paid for itself.
Yeah. That one thing's probably everything.
Right. And you're gonna know it too, because the whole time you're at a conference, the people talking is gonna sound like Charlie Brown's teacher. Just wah wah wah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you're gonna hear clearly, and it's gonna be that one thing that 1 or 2 things that you needed to hear.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be like, oh, boom. I can go now.
You just reminded me of something, because I was in putting this year back together and kind of planning out my day, planning out my week, planning out the month, I was thinking back to last year and like how I got off track, and I was like, I was doing too many things, but in thinking on them and not remembering, um, trying to be present, like you just reminded me, the one thing I got from a conference I went to last year was, um, I think a relationship. So I've got to look back through my Rolodex and see in my notes that I took, did I save this person's number who I was having conversation with? Because then it's like I can learn from that person, and the real estate thing may have to wait. Like I may need to put it on hold for the moment and then just focus on this, continue developing relationships, continue networking, and then let that do what it's supposed to do versus trying to do all things and then you get none of them done.
Yeah, and that's, to me, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about, people saying you're doing too much. You have to make that decision.
Right.
Because only you, and I keep hating to go back to sports, but
hey man, I love it. It's very relatable. I mean, if you enjoy it, just be yourself. Nobody's here judging you like, oh, I'm not listening to you. It's like, no, we're just doing this, the two of us.
So it is, like, okay, if I'm a coach and I have a quarterback, I know what I can put on his plate. Like, even I'll take my son, for instance.
Yeah.
I know what I can put on his plate. Like, hey, either we're going to walk up here, we're going to do audibles, and we're going to run certain plays, or we're just going to run the simplest plays ever. We're just going to do a sweep here and a pass here. That's how you have to look at life. Like, can I handle the audibles and change it up? Or do I just need the simple plays? Meaning, let me just do this one thing here.
Yeah.
And then when I get this up and going, I can go to something else. Some people work best that way.
Yeah.
Other people can do, hey, I'm going to do this right now. And then at 3 o'clock, I'm going to switch it to this.
Yeah.
And then at 6 o'clock, I'm going to switch it to this. And then at 9 o'clock, I'm going to switch it to this.
Yeah.
But you have to know you. Don't let nobody else tell you what you can and can't do. So if you feel like, yo, I was doing too much, then you're going to be most effective by you saying it. Man, I was doing too much. Let me back it down. And I'm going to go about it this way.
Yeah.
That's going to be most effective. Now, if you say, hey, so-and-so was telling me I was doing too much, there's going to be something inside of you that's going to be wanting to do more.
Yeah.
And you're going to be frustrated because you're listening to this person.
Right.
And you're just sitting here twiddling your thumbs doing this one thing, but there's going to be something inside of you that's saying, yo, you actually could be doing this and this and this too.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like, you can't uncage it because you're listening to somebody else.
Right.
So understand you.
Right.
And when you understand you, man, it doesn't matter if it's a mom or dad, a spouse, a girlfriend, boyfriend, family member. Like, you're going to have to do it your way, man. You only get one shot at this thing.
Right.
Only one. And I would much rather go down swinging the bat at the pitches I want to swing at than somebody telling me to sit up there and don't swing, and then next thing you know, I just struck out. I'm not going to strike out by not swinging the bat.
Yeah.
If I'm going to strike out, I'm swinging at what I think I can hit home runs at, and that's it, man. So it speaks volume of you that you realize it, because a lot of people don't like looking in that mirror, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people like having that press conference after they done won a game. Nobody likes having that press conferences after they lost. And you got to sit up there. You got to talk to the people when you lose them games too.
Right.
And me and my cousin Kyle, we have this thing that we say, you got to stand at that podium. And, if you look, there's coaches that they be frustrated when they lose, man, but you rah when you winning, you got to have that same. And so, and it's funny because we call each other out on it. And he was actually the one who introduced me to Rich Dad Poor Dad, believe it or not. Now, if you look at our DMs, you look at our text messages, you would think we hate each other.
Yeah.
And it's actually nothing but love. And I remember 2009, Wells Fargo had just came out with this thing. It's huge now, but they had just came out with this thing called Way to Save. And Way to Save is when you swipe your debit card and $1 goes into a savings account, right?
Yeah.
And Kyle was real big on it. He was just like, cuz, yo, you gotta do this Way to Save with Wells Fargo. If you ain't enrolled in it, like, man, I got like $2,000 I ain't even realize I had because I was just swiping my card. And I'm like, damn, seems like to me you swiping your card a whole lot. He was like, nah, man, you ain't listening. Like, man, I'm just telling you, like, it's a cool way to save money. And he was like, yo, I tell you what, man, you really need to get this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, man. Like, you need to really read it.
Yeah.
I tell you what, man, I bought the book because I felt like it was just cool to have the book around. You know, a girl may walk into the house and be like, oh, you're reading. I probably didn't read that book, man, until about 4 years later. So we're looking at about 2013, 2014, man, when I really read the book. Had the book for about 4 years. Yeah. It was just a decoration, just so I would appeal more intellectual when a female walked in.
Like, this man's going places.
Yeah, you know, it was what it was. But like I said, when I really read it, it was life-changing. It was life-changing, man. So I think, man, everybody has a Rich Dad, Poor Dad story. Like, I don't think it's an entrepreneur alive that doesn't have a Rich Dad, Poor Dad story. Yeah.
That's powerful. I get one thing, I like you kept bringing up freedom over and over again. I know we're recording this during Black History Month, but one question that kind of came to my mind last weekend was, I don't think people consider what slavery is outside of Black history. Not only the fact that Black people weren't the only slaves. I know in America, it's like that's what we focus on because they're the longest held slaves. But it's like outside of that, if you understand what freedom really is and whether you have it or not, you might be a slave if you're not your head coach.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you man, I could go all day on this one. I don't know if you know John Henry Clark. Like, it's somebody who I listen. It's somebody who I listen to probably religiously, man. You can go to YouTube and find out everything. Find just about all his I guess talks. But the Atlantic slave trade, man, it wasn't the first. It's just the most known. It was white people who were slaves. Yeah. It was Indians who were slaves. And when you go back into the grand scheme of things of how slavery came about, you know, really Africans turned on Africans. Yeah. Actually, unfortunately, but you know, it was in the Caribbeans as far as Africans go. You know, they went to the Caribbeans first. Yeah. And then the Americas. Yeah. And so, but you have to now think, and I know you didn't ask me this question, but it bounces off of my why now. And you're exactly right when you say being in chains is not the only way to be a slave. You can sell drugs and the drug dealer can be a slave. You can do drugs and the drug user can be a slave. Yeah. You can go shopping and the consumer can be a slave. Yeah. You can work a 9 to 5 and you are a slave. Slavery is not only physical, but it's also mentally too.
Yeah.
You can mentally be a slave to something.
Right.
You can be a slave to a person without it being, ball and chain. A pimp will tell you firsthand, anybody can control a woman's body, but a pimp can control a woman's mind. That woman is now a slave to that pimp.
Yeah.
So, but for me, that's actually where my why comes from. I never forget, it wasn't that long ago. It was probably, honestly, probably about 4 months ago. It really wasn't that long ago. I was sitting back there in the man cave, and I'm real big on energy and spirits, mainly because I study Africa a lot, which is why I say I recommend John Henry Clark.
Gotcha.
So like I said, that's why I said, man, I could do this all day. But I really and truly, but I don't do religion.
Yeah.
I think religion and politics is something that just divides us, just like race. I believe there's a God, and that's as far as I'm gonna go with saying, as far as talking that, because I don't want to turn it into a religious podcast. But I will say I believe there's a God, because I understand I can't make water.
Right.
I can't make a tree. So there's something out there that's bigger than me. But I remember I was back there one night and I felt something, man. And I meditate and do affirmations every night, every morning. And I remember being there, sitting there, and I just started thinking. And I was like, wow. It was really and truly two people, a man and a woman, who came over on a ship. And some people decided, hey, I'm going to die before I go over there and be a slave. Some people said, man, I'm going to jump over here and just drown because I'm not going to be able to do this. And some people just didn't survive because they just didn't survive. But there was a man and a woman who said, you know what? We're going to survive. And maybe one day we might see it and we may not see it, but maybe one day somebody or a group or somebody in our family will be able to change everything. Do I feel like I can change everything? No. But I do feel like I owe it to those two people who I've never met, who got me here to where I am today. Because they could have easily said, you know what? Man, we're going to jump over the side of this ship. Or I'm going to run away so I know you will kill me. Or I'm going to do something so I know you will hang me and I don't have to deal with this anymore. For some reason, I don't know, but for some reason, this man and this woman came over and survived long enough for me to get here.
Yeah.
I owe that to them, to be every single thing I could be. I owe it to them.
Yeah.
Is my son a factor? Yeah. Is my wife a factor? Yeah. My mom, yeah. But what really gets me is that, damn, it could have really went left. And I wouldn't be here if those two people on that ship didn't make the choice to do that.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm here.
Right.
And I owe it to them, because if it wasn't for that, none of this matters anyway.
Yeah.
And that's where my why comes from. And maybe they had the mentality of, I'm a slave, but I'm not. You know, I don't know if you ever seen the movie, Zulu movie, Shaka Zulu.
I don't think I
And
have.
and Shaka Zulu says in this movie, Shaka Zulu was a king, and white man came over England and befriended him. And Shaka Zulu, it was all friendly, and he wanted Shaka Zulu to go to England with him. And Shaka Zulu said, "Hey, if I go there, am I a king?"
Yeah.
And white man was like, I don't know, probably, we have our own king, and queen.
Yeah.
And he was like, no matter where I go, I'm a king. It doesn't matter if you have your own king or not. It doesn't, right. I don't care. I'm not going to try to overthrow them, but I'm a king too. And I would be treated as one. And they was like, well, nah, we don't know. Like, nah. He was like, no.
Yeah.
No matter where I go, I am a king. And he went down with that mindset the whole time. And you have to have that kind of mindset. Like, no matter what happens out there, I am who I am. My name is my name. I am who I am. And I appreciate them two people, man, for doing that. Because they could have easily said, forget this.
Yeah.
I'm in a totally different land. I don't know. Nah. You got me eating all this crap? Nah. And that's my why. That's where my why comes from, man, because when you said it's more ways to be enslaved, that's something that resonated with me, because you can be enslaved and actually be free. You can be free and actually enslaved.
Yeah.
So I appreciate them for having the mindset that they had.
That's good. I like how you responded to that. And I guess as a follow-up, one question I like to ask is, who do you say you are?
I am a lot of things that are good, and I'm a lot of things that are bad. I'm competitive. I'm caring. I'm a father. I'm a husband. But I also could be a better friend. I could be a better husband. I could be a better father. I'm a lot of things, and I'm me. And I can't say I'm just one thing, because I'm so much more than one thing.
Yeah.
So for me, that's who I am. I'm a lot of things.
Yeah.
And a lot of things make me good. There's a lot of things that make me bad. But the one thing is that I own all of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Man, it's been an honor and a pleasure, man. I really got to run to this property.
I was just going to say, do you want, if you want to shout out anything or let the people know where they can find you?
Yeah, man. You can follow me, TJ, at T_Jamar. Man, feel free to DM me if I can help. I don't have a course to sell or anything like that. But man, if I can help you with anything, real estate wise, stock wise, just hit me up, man. No problem at all. I'll give you some direction to some people who probably know more than I do. So, man, it's been an honor, man. I really and truly appreciate this.
I appreciate you, because I almost didn't let this happen, but next time I won't be asking for permission. I'll just go with the gut and be me. Thank you.
Like I said, man, the best moments come from these moments, man.
Yeah.
And always, like, my wife is real big on getting my son to pose. And I'm like, why? Why you make him pose? Just let him do.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you the best pictures are going to come from him just doing.
Right.
And so that's why my son actually made me realize just doing it is way better than staging it.
Very true.
So yeah, man. So just take that with you, man. Just do it. You know, just ask, hey, do you care if I record this? And let it ride.
Well, dude, take care, TJ.
All right, my brother. Take care, man. Peace.
This is the It's My Time podcast with Asher Chua.